Hello. Hello. Thank you so much for being here tonight. I really want to welcome you to Pepatián's Bronx Arts Collaborative. I know my lighting's a little strange, but this is Sharing the Same Cielo, Sharing the Same Sky, presented in partnership with Ostos Center for the Arts and Culture. Really want to thank you, Felix, and thank you, Greg. We are on the lands of the Siwanoy and the Wequagsgeek homelands. We're very grateful as we continue learning about their stewardship of these lands and waters. There's a lot in there, and it's not easy to say it very quickly, but we're learning and we're getting there to be able to appreciate that more and more publicly. We also would like to thank the funders, New York City Department of Cultural Affairs, the new Yankee Stadium Community Benefits Fund, Mertz Gilmore Foundation, and our very own Bronx Council on the Arts, as well as Havana Harlem. And we really want to thank the artists, of course, for taking this leap of faith, and as they always do. And what else? This event is part of Dancing La Botanica, which was begun in 2019. It's part of Pepatián's ongoing work to support Latino, Latina, Latinx, and Bronx-based multidisciplinary artists. Pepatián was co-founded in 1983 by award-winning artists Marian Soto, who I think is here tonight. Hola, Marian. Pepon Osorio and Patty Bradshaw. I was hired in '99. My job is really to listen for cues and then create some shaping around them and with some resources. So there was a moment a couple of years ago when we were like, we need to do more for Latino, Latina, Latinx and multidisciplinary artists, and we need to do something more specific and like super intentional. So Dancing La Botanica was born. I got some funding. I spoke with the wonderful Alicia Díaz and Beatrice Capote and invited them, if they were interested, to become leaders for the project, which they did, which is amazing. And so far, this work has been supported by Pregones Theater, Bronx Arts Center, and the Bronx Academy of Arts and Dance. So Ostos, we were here tonight because Ostos got in touch in January to talk with us about what would be possible this spring. And on the same day, Megan wrote and was like, I have a rooftop on the clock tower. So that wasn't so much listening for cues, it's like a giant arrow pointing, like, this is what we can do. So that's the rooftop series idea was born from that, which morphed into sky and water, and you'll see. It's a way to connect even in distance and offer something supportive, to offer something creative with lots and lots of beautiful conversation, and it was not stressful. And on that note, I'd like to thank you all very much for being here. My name is Jane Gabriels, and quite bad lighting, but and I'd really like to welcome Alicia Díaz, who will be moderating the rest of the evening to introduce the artist and to tell you more. Alicia?
Hello, thank you, Jane, so much, and welcome everyone to Dancing La Botánica, La Tierra Vive. Gracias por venir. We're so happy to be here with you today. So I'll just do a really brief kind of sequence of events for what we're going to be today. We're going to be in the company of amazing artists for whom I have great admiration and respect. So we will open the evening with an offering and a ritual that we have been doing before as part of La Botánica. So we're going to open with that in a little bit. I will introduce all the artists, and then we're going to view the work that we're sharing with you tonight, and that will be for about 25 minutes or so. And after that, then we will come back for a conversation amongst the artists and especially with you as well. So I want to invite you, as of right now, to use the chat so that as you are viewing the work, you can use the chat for any responses, any comments, even questions if you want, that we can then begin to integrate into our conversation from the beginning. So we're really interested in this being a back and forth with you throughout the evening. So I'd like to first invite Beatrice Capote, who is a co-facilitator of La Botánica, as Jane said. Hola, Beatrice.
Hola, hello, everybody.
Hey, and I'll bring in now dance artist Beverly Lopez. Hola, Beverly.
Hello, everyone.
Hello. And choreographer and mentor, Rokafella.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello, sorry.
There you are. Beautiful. Excellent. And dance educator, choreographer, and performer, Megan Curet.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, and as Jane said earlier, she is sort of the original kind of envisioning of why we are here today. So really exciting to be able to make that happen. And then poet and video editor, Caridad De La Luz, also known as La Bruja.
Hey, here we are.
Yeah.
So excited.
We made it here in spite of the pandemic, in spite of the many challenges of this year, and the as I often feel, the dual pandemic, right, of the coronavirus and also our systemic racism that we've been dealing with for so long now. So we're here. We've made the space and this healing space to connect and to create. So I'm so very grateful for this. So I'll pass it on to Beatrice, who will take us through an opening offering.
Sure. I'm hoping that you can hear me perfectly now.
There's a little bit something in the back. I'm not sure, but I think we can hear you.
Okay. Cool. So because we are dancing la botanica, and when we talk about botanica, we're always talking about just the traditions, our spirits that are, of course, always with us, our ancestors. So we always have to just acknowledge our ancestors. And before a show, we always like to do this. And since we've been kind of like starting this, I have the offering of agua florida. So if you have water next to you, or even agua florida, just I would like to. This is something that I do prior to a performance, and so this is the offering for it. Just everyone to use agua florida. So of course, it's a cleansing of any negative toxins or just negativity toxins, anything that should not be in this energy, right? Because we're always talking about great energy and positivity. We're bringing in the positivity into our way, and as we of course continue with our showing and our event. So if everyone pours a little bit of water or agua florida into their hand, then from here you're just gonna shake, shake, shake. Put your I'm speaking in Spanglish, putting to your neck, the back of the neck. From there, you're gonna take it to your forehead, and then from there, you're gonna shake 3 times. Shake. That's it. Y después aquí, los hombros, and shake. Toda la basura afuera. Yeah. So this is one of the things that we, of course, do, and I love to like offer that, and that's just kind of like a brief introduction as we continue on with our event today. As we mentioned, we'll have our presentation of film, the video, and then from there, and please keep going.
We're losing the sound. We're losing the sound.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, there we go.
There we go.
Please type in the chat, and yes, and enjoy the show.
What's it like over there?
baby my yeye, baby loro, 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 baby my yeye.
Yeah, 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 oh, adidemu. Yeah, 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 oh, adidemu. Adinyale lobosi. Yeah, yeah, otolorefa. Ariboyo, adidemu. Adinyale lobosi. Yeah, 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 oh, adidemu. Yeah, 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 oh, adidemu, adinyale lobosi. Yeah, yeah, otolorefa, hariboyo, adidemu, adinyale lobosi.
Oshun, Oshun, madre de las aguas frescas, las aguas dulces, dueña del río, dueña de la riqueza, dueña del oro, Apetebi Oshun. Gracias por tus limpiezas. Gracias por tu presencia que dominas, tu energía, tu cariño y protección. Gracias, Oshun. Te doy una ofrenda de movimientos frescas, movimientos sensuales. La sensualidad está siempre en mi lado. Gracias, Oshun, por darme esa riqueza. La riqueza de amor. La riqueza de la vida.
Madre Ochun, me quedo pensando en ti. Llévale este mensaje a mi abuelita. Abuelita, que estás en el cielo, yo te quiero tanto, me hace falta tu voz. Mi corazón sigue llorando y cada día yo te extraño. Desde el cielo me estás velando, dándome la bendición. De vez en cuando me encuentro sola, recordando tu amor. Every time I speak your name, my heart feels some pain. I catch myself crying as I'm singing in the rain, remembering the days you told me not to complain. everything one day was gonna be okay, you'd say, aprende nena, no voy a durar la vida. And I would smile thinking you were gonna live forever. Abuelita, you were my master teacher, my beautiful matriarch, Daina Boricua. Abuelita tenía una sonrisa bonita, ella vivía en la cocina, me llenaba de alegría, cocinando para la familia. Pienso en esos días, ahora vive otra persona en la casa que vivías. Sin tu amor me siento perdida, pero por Ochun estoy bendecida, mi querida viejita. Siempre serás la reina de mi vida y lamento tu partida, pero Ochun me cuida. Madre mía, reina de los ríos, guardia mía. Ochun, me quedo pensando en ti. Gracias. Madre Ochun, me quedo pensando en ti. Llévale este mensaje a mi abuelita. Abuelita, que estás en el cielo, yo te quiero tanto, me hace falta tu voz. Mi corazón sigue llorando y cada día yo te extraño. Desde el cielo me estás velando, dándome la bendición. De vez en cuando me encuentro sola, recordando tu amor. Every time I speak your name, my heart feels some pain. I catch myself crying as I'm singing in the rain, remembering the days you told me not to complain, that everything one day was gonna be okay, you'd say, aprende nena, no voy a durar la vida. And I would smile thinking you were gonna live forever. Abuelita, you were my master teacher, my beautiful matriarch, Daina Boricua. Abuelita tenía una sonrisa bonita, ella vivía en la cocina, me llenaba de alegría, cocinando para la familia. Pienso en esos días, ahora vive otra persona en la casa que vivías. Sin tu amor me siento perdida, pero por Ochun estoy bendecida, mi querida viejita. Siempre serás la reina de mi vida y lamento tu partida, pero Ochun me cuida. Madre mía, reina de los ríos, guardia mía. Ochun, me quedo pensando en ti. Gracias.
welcome back. Oh my gosh, I just need to take a moment. This was so beautiful to see this sort of coming back to us, right? Like we sent something out and now it's coming back to us and shared with others. So I feel my heart is beating fast. Yeah, I see Roka. It's like, yeah, this is the time when I do miss the live being live, right? Like this would be a time of hearing, clapping, and hugging. So thank you. And I see a lot of stuff in the, on the chat right now, a lot of love and clapping and emojis and excellent and beautiful. I'm emotional for real. Amazing aplausos. Yay, everyone. Beautiful. So now we get to talk about it. And again, I will invite everyone in the audience to use the chat as we go, right? Like we'll start talking and we really want to keep this very conversational. And so as we go, please keep sending your comments and your questions and your responses, and we'll integrate those. So we'll begin, I think, with all those artists that were in the Bronx at the clock tower. Someone said in the chat that their son lives in that building, which I thought was really great. And just thinking, I was thinking as I was watching this again, just as we went into doing this work, how we were talking about we wanted to use this opportunity as a form of healing, right? Like that was at the center of our conversations, for our work to serve as a healing ground, both for individually and collectively, right? And it's also a place of celebration that it was so evident today, and a place of connection with ourselves and with others, right? So there's so much there. So maybe we can begin this way, in thinking of what were your, what did you set out to do? What was your intention? What was that creative process like? And we can just open it to the artists in the Bronx, to Roka and Beverly and Megan, and anyone that feels like you want to begin that part of the conversation, please. And that we did this in the middle of the pandemic, right? In that transition mode of the pandemic.
Unmute yourselves.
Well, I guess I'll start, since it was the rooftop that initiated the project. I guess I'll speak for myself when I say, when I first moved into the clock tower at the beginning of the pandemic last May, I immediately thought I wanted this space to be a haven for other things and events to transpire in the Bronx. Like I'm a born and raised Bronx native. I'm a Castle Hill girl. And I wanted something that wasn't just mine. And whether it was hosting events or using the space to create, I knew that living in the clock tower for myself as a Bronx native meant like providing spaces for other Bronx artists, specifically of color. And so when the opportunity came to offer the space, I had no idea that it would become this like massive cross-state project, cross-island project. And so I'm really excited that that's what was able to transpire out of it, regardless of being in the pandemic and being in different spaces. I love that rooftop, and I think it's the best rooftop in the Bronx. I'm a little biased, but it's behind the iHeart Radio sign. Sorry, my nephews. It's behind the old and the new. You know, you have the projects and you have these new high rises coming up, and you have the water, and you have the other parts of the city just right there. And you're sort of on this imaginary border in the middle of the city, actually. And then you have the sky, and yeah, it's just a really special place. And in the evenings, the sunsets are really magical. And we had so many different things taking place that day, from the clouds to the suns. So that's just to give a little insight of the space and how we sort of kicked it off. But I think we all had like a really special connection to the space. Beverly with the plants. We lost parts of Beverly's costume at one point, and we had to, there's a garden up there, so we're like finding plants with thorns poking us, and we're just picking up what we could find off of this garden, this concrete jungle. Yeah, it was a really special day of filming, and I think really more especially being there in the Bronx. And you know, this is hosted with and Hostos and Pepatián, so I think we all share similar love for the Bronx. So it was exciting to be able to kick this off with artists of the Bronx in the Bronx.
I'm laughing because I remember when I got home, I was like, wow, I really lost that fake flower. And I was just so upset. I was so mad. And then I was scrolling through footage, and then I literally watched myself put the flower down and then walked away, like literally just left. And I'm like, and then I send Megan the footage. I'm like, look, this is the proof. This is the evidence of what happened that day. And unfortunately, I utilized fake flowers for my work. But like Megan said, we managed to like take the resources from the actual rooftop and actually incorporate real plants in my piece. My piece in particular was really about the fruits of my labor, the fruits of my spirit. And I'm in a season now where I'm thinking a lot about blooming. And so what does that mean, right? And how long do we bloom, right? Because the idea that inspired this work has been in my mind for a while now, since back in January of when Hostos invited La Botanica to come and host another event, in which in that show, I also talked about this idea of death and dying regularly. And what does that mean? And taking cues from the season and trying to apply it to life, and think about the fact that sometimes we're shedding and sometimes we're blooming. And so Alicia really inspired my work as well, because layering all this natural plants and not natural plants, and just being on top of a building in the city, those are like a lot of different layers. And I was very inspired by your work, Alicia, because you really utilized so many backdrops and so many textures. And I want to thank you for that, because it kickstarted something in me. And we were able to then just use the rooftop to play. And so thank you, Raka, Beasty, and Megan for making that kind of space so easy.
Yeah, I you know, being on a roof is, you know, kind of where you hang out, you know, but the pandemic closed everything down, and I didn't feel like breaking, and I wasn't able to break. So when you all approached me and asked, you know, how, you know, what would I bring? I immediately thought of like squares, because I was like zoomed out. So I was like, yeah, tutting, which is a part of popping, which is a part of hip hop, but also voguing also uses the same, you know, lines. So I was like, let's merge those two languages that normally don't get merged. And I wanted to show up with Beasty, you know, it's like somebody I've known for so long, BX all the way. And so I was like, let's go up on a roof and represent shapes. And, you know, the fact that we were on the floor, but the way that Beverly held the camera made us look like we were like suspended on a wall. So props to you, Beverly, for that one. And we did feel suspended. I did feel like I couldn't be on the ground solid the way I normally am. And so the pandemic threw me way off. I'm still going to counseling, you know, trying to recapture where I want to go, where I want to be. So this was perfect. And to think about the sky, and that so many of our sisters and brothers are doing their own thing, and we're sharing the same weather, the same land, you know, the same, I said landscape, you know, I'm messed up. It's sky, it's not land. We're all stick. staring at the same planets, at the same sunset, at the same sunrise. Clouds were exposed to water, which is the same water in the planet. So it was just a beautiful thing to share that moment. And then I think, Beverly, you wrote that song at the end, and we were all just like jamming and doing like authentic movement. It didn't have to be any one thing. So it was just beautiful. Thank you.
I think one thing that was really special was, Alicia mentioned this before, the idea of the circles that kept coming up in the group dancing on top of the clock tower. This idea of just us circling each other and like all the history of the circle. What does that mean for social dances and dances of the diaspora? But then also this intertwining of each other as well, and like crossing and passing each other. I think that's very special because we do it in everyday life, right? We go this way, we have this gig, we do that gig. Sometimes we work together, sometimes we don't. We see each other on a project, we catch coffee, and that's kind of like the crossings that happen. So it was nice to really see that like in artistic form through this work.
Yeah, I'm seeing a comment from Marianne. So much merging across the works and mediums, bringing all together. Very satisfying and uplifting. I felt that very strong in that circle at the end with the individual voices of each of you. And yet that histories, it feels that you were talking about, Beverly, of that circle, all the dance forms, right, of the African diaspora that all sort of feed the work that we do, even if our styles are different, but you can really see how that foundation connected all of you in that circle. It's that like really deep, right? It's a deep circle of the layers. That was really clear.
Yeah, I agree. And it's also that, again, foundation and how that African diaspora just kind of like stayed in the center. It's really, really what describes, Dancing La Botanica in general, right? And, all of us coming together. And even though we're all seeing the work now and the compilation, we're having, of course, like conversations about this, and during meetings, just for the audience to also know that, we're constantly always in conversation about, what does this mean? What, and of course in the creation of this. But one of the questions that I wanted to ask about was more of, as I was watching, I was just wondering, like, in terms of, just the collaboration with all of you, like how long did it take, taking turns, like how did the whole video, just like the process that nobody really knows about, right? The nitty gritties, right? We of course know the editing process, but like, when you first got into the tower and, you were there and, what was the first thing that happened, just like those little steps, that I feel like sometimes is so memorable and so juicy. Like, yes, Rosalind said the behind the scenes, right? So if you guys could kind of like talk about.
So we started around 9 a.m. and we started with like a scouting. And from there, it went into individual shooting. And so we probably worked from 9 to 3, but that was just filming day. Like, I know I'll speak for my own process on my piece that was in rehearsal for about a few weeks prior to that shooting date. So there was a lot of time spent on the works. And then there was like some hours spent in filming that day together. And sort of just like taking turns and really a lot of supporting. What was really cool about this project was that we worked really hard together. It was like, oh, you've got this camera, you've got this tripod, you've got this stabilizer, you've got this speaker. Cool. I'm going to film for you. You're going to film for me. All right, let's take this shot. It was such an effort in sisterhood practice, I would say, as well, which was really, really, really cool and exciting. And a lot of us knew each other prior to this. So it's exciting when like you're from the Bronx and you're professional working dance artists, but you finally get to work together because there's a lot that you come already with knowing, like the dancers there, the know-how, the get to work. we had survived a pandemic, so we hadn't seen each other. I mean, I'm used to seeing Roka all the time, and it'd been a year, right? So there was that aspect of like, oh my God, we're in space together. And then like, it just flowed and it came together very copaesthetically, which was one of my favorite parts of the whole experience, actually.
Yeah, me and Beasty, we've been dancing for such a long time, and that one routine that we did is such a throwback to, years. I want to say maybe even a decade ago. And so it was just like, yeah, we got to do that piece right there. And then to just stack up the shapes, the squares, the lines, her behind me or me behind her. And just do what comes, whatever comes to mind. Is like this confidence that I have, is particularly with her, that I just know if you throw us on a stage, you throw us in a circle, whatever we throw is going to be okay. It's going to be fine. And her energy is so intense that I'm like, yeah, I can match that. I've never had a feeling of, competition, never. And and I'm happy, Megan, you said that about how we helped each other with tripods, cameras. I brought my speaker, I had umbrellas, brick, whatever, we were just ready to make it happen and make it amazing. And I don't want to say that it's rare, but it was just beautiful to be.
Even with the music, like you came with copyright-free music, you're like,
I think
music,
Beverly had it. Yeah, I think Beverly had for the end, right? She had that YouTube something. So yeah, it was just really, there was like a confidence in there that we can go, and I got you if something doesn't go right. I got you. It'll look right. It'll be right. So yeah, it was great. It was great.
Yeah, so it's so funny because I feel like we actually worked pretty fast. And that's the thing. Like, we gave ourselves way too much time because I don't know why, I guess cushion, but it was like, oh, I'm done. We're done. That was good. That felt good. All right, what you want to do now? We got time until the next slot. You know what I mean? And that just allowed a lot of space for us to talk about other things and to connect after a whole pandemic. Yeah.
And then Beverly would be like, hey, you hold the camera while we go around. Okay, then pass the camera to somebody else while we go around. It was like we were producers, camera women, sound people.
We were looking at our own light. We were like, wait, stand over here. Let me see. No, do you think the light's going to hit you well that way? I don't know. Let's try this way. So we're like trying to chase the sun, because one thing about the sun is, I don't know, unpredictable. It was out, it wasn't, and it was like, come on, Cielo, get it together. This is about you. And yes. So we were just making it work. But in those moments where the sun was like peeping, we were like, let's go, 5, 6, 7, 8, get the camera rolling. And it's so funny how there's a story about the sky in this
totally
big old project about the sky and our relationship to it.
Yeah. So and it was chilly. When we first got there, you see me, I got a turtleneck with a leather jacket. It was cold. I was like, all right, y'all, this is gonna look like winter here. And then, like Beverly said, like the sun came out. We were like, oh, damn. Okay. Megan, you were like, my feet are cold. And then it wasn't cold. It was great. It was great.
Linda just wrote, Linda Bonilla, who is also part of La Botánica, and will be in our second video next week on the 11th. But Linda, I was just thinking what you wrote, a version of what you wrote. So Linda says, La Botánica gave the opportunity to create an informal dialogue that generated into these interdisciplinary creative conversations. And so it's like these many layers of circles, right? That circle of these squares that we were able to keep and maintain. I guess it's been now 2 years, but 1 year in Zoom land, really, I feel like really created a foundation for something like this to be able to happen at this particular moment, right? Of these conversations that were not product oriented, right? They were really process and being. And I love, Roka, how you kept it like really real, right? Like there's been so much loss in during this year, and what, the healing that we need. And so that sisterhood practice that you were saying, Megan, and how you're describing now that working behind the scenes, like someone said in the it's its own circle, right? Like there's a circle that came out of these conversations in a very creative way. So it's really beautiful. And Linda says also artists were able to explore disciplines that weren't traditional. Yes. And I'll say one more thing and then pass it on. But Beverly, I was thinking when you were talking about our interaction, right, sort of informing of our work, sort of back and forth, right, in the circle that we're creating, that Linda's work was also really influential in my thinking also of, and Linda's visual work, and Melanie Gonzalez, who's also a part of La Botánica, where they work with all these ideas of juxtaposition of images, right? And I think that the work that we have done is informed by that, right? Like we have juxtaposed each other in ways that are resonate Linda's and Melanie's work.
I had a question for both you and Beatrice. What about those sources of water made you choose to go there? Because, right, there's other places, other lakes, other shores. What drew you to, what made you choose to do that?
I wasn't sure if it was Alicia who was going to go. Okay, cool. It's interesting because the intention behind the river or the water, is really the inspiration of Oshun and exploring Oshun. It's so interesting because anytime I'm doing either African diaspora or just Latin dances, Oshun energy always follows my work or my trajectory of what I'm going to do in concept idea or whatnot. So me and Alicia had this whole conversation, and Alicia can talk a little bit more because sometimes I forget because in terms of the process, but we in terms of the starting of it, but thinking about like healing, thinking about what does femininity mean, sexuality, and sensuality, the beauty of a woman or womanex, right? So, and what does that mean in past, present, and future? And as Linda said, the feminine divine, right? So it was bringing her like Oshun, and Oshun just kept on coming up, and I thought about like, okay, well, what is Oshun in us? How is Oshun being present even in today? How is that those traditions and spiritual traditions like in each of our works, but then also in the clock tower too, because there's this revolving of energies that are happening with you all there, right? And then of course with the sky, with the sun, right? And Oshun's color is yellow, right? Oshun, represents obviously feminine energy and sexuality. And for those that don't know that Oshun, we're talking about the Orishas in the Lukumi tradition or in the Yoruba religion from Nigeria, and the Orishas meaning deities or gods in the folklore traditions. And the deity that we're talking about is Oshun, and Oshun has representations of very much the feminine energy, and she is a powerhouse. She is what represents a woman in general. So, so in terms of the water, that was basically what we were thinking of. How does water just heal us, and how do we bring Oshun into that energy? And then that's where the sunflowers, came into, of course, like my work, and then also the prayer that I was singing, and then of course the laughter, right? So, and laughter is something that is very prevalent in Oshun in general, just because, you know, she's laughing, but she's laughing because she's like not necessarily laughing because of joy, but laughing because she's punishing someone, right? So, so it's kind of like there's destruction going on in the world, right? Because the women energy and the women spirit doesn't necessarily doesn't get respected. So it's her continuously coming in to that stance to say, let's listen to the women, to women, to the feminine energy. So
Yes, all of that. I'll add one short thing, and then I want to bring Caridad into the conversation, who is the glue of everything here. So I'm keeping her at the end, but you bring us together, Caridad. I wanted to add to all of what Beatrice said, which was really, you know, throughout many conversations, I feel in this process that we were sort of diving into all those themes with Oshun, that for me, I'm in Richmond, Virginia, the former capital of the Confederacy, the second largest slave trade and slave, auctions, second only to New Orleans. So really the entrance of enslaved people into the South, and that history is really strong here. It's really not the remnants, the legacy of that is very, very strong. And so the river is a witness, right? And it's also, the river is how people actually arrived here. And so I thought, I've been thinking a lot about the river in that way, both as witness and as healing, right? In that space that Beatrice was talking about. And then how to think about how we link, I was thinking of, it's called the James River here, which is, of course, is a colonizer's name. But then thinking of the Bronx and the Bronx River, right? And all the healing work and the reclaiming of the Bronx River that is taking place, that Caridad has been so much a part of as well. And so when we were thinking about this work, we were really, for Beatrice and I, it was like, what are offerings of healing that we can send to the Bronx, right? And so I felt like that connection of both the deep history of oppression that we all share, and then the healing from river to river that we also share.
And I also want to mention too that that in the video it said that I'm in Indiana, and I just moved to Indiana. So it was definitely something that was very foreign and is still foreign to me. I've lived in New York, New Jersey for a long time, where my family is here, and so just the spirituality and everything is really what I learned and what I grew up with here. So moving to somewhere else as foreign, I kind of wanted to bring back those traditions and the spiritual element, to a place like Indiana, right? So yeah, that was also that connection too, that just felt more like home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Rosalind, who is also part of this project for our next part 2, and some people are asking in the Q&A, there are 3 parts to this project. So there will be another video on the 11th, and then a third one on the 18th, and we can talk a little bit more about that as we're closing. But Caridad, Rosalind is saying, it's insane how everyone created their own piece, and yet themes overlap, mesh, and relate so well. That can be anything else other than synchronization, which is true. It's also a lot of conversation, and then it's Caridad putting us together. So I wanna sort of pass it on to you, and maybe share with us, some of the ways in which you were envisioning this work, it's both images and movement and sonically, there's so much there.
Well, this pandemic pushed all of our, it made us face what our limitations, what we are perceived limitations, and how to pass and, take on to the next level, push to the next level. And so filmmaking was one of those things. Like, I haven't had a music video, and I've done music, poetry, I've done some dance, and I've gotten over with the dance, you know what I mean? with the help of Rokafella and my mommy salsa and all of that. But it was just it happened so naturally to see everyone's work, the conversations that we were having. It was all like this thread. Through these conversations, I was able to just see I don't know, like everybody I wanted to see everybody like see what I was seeing and then take it up a notch. So I've been making videos for myself, right? So I was making videos for myself, and in this pandemic, nobody else was gonna do it. I was like, so I learned, just take a tripod, turn the iPhone on, film myself, go take the iMovie, click, blah, 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 look at effects, this and this. So I just took this work and made it like if it was, if it was my own, like what I was doing with my own music videos independently, I was like making a music video out of each part, with everybody. And then, the lines, one of the things that I loved was the lines, like Rokafella. The reason I chose that block, if you notice, like those transitions was with the squares, because I was like seeing you make those shapes, so then that came into it. It was just so many threads. I'm named after La Caridad del Cobre, which is the Catholic name of Ochun. So the fact that we all had that connection, and the conversation, it just came out more. Alicia shared her work because everyone did their own work, then brought it all together, and then I took everyone's work and then brought that together. But Ochun was just so present, as was Yemaya, but as like a quiet watching, because I'm here next to the ocean. I'm in Puerto Rico, and I went and filmed. My daughter came to visit me and filmed me pouring honey, but we were in the ocean, and the river actually meets the ocean right where I am. So Yemaya was always that presence behind Ochun, but this time we were able to celebrate Ochun. And then I had a song called Para Mama that I did with Kiko Navarro, and it was gonna get flagged, even though I'm on it and I had permission. It was gonna get flagged for copyright, and we would have lost the feed. So I went 20 minutes before showtime and recorded what you saw. Like, oh my God. And I improvised Ochun and Abuelita, because that's really how I felt too. And what I love watching, it was like watching totally new for the first time watching. And then I see Beatrice, you were representing my grandmother and Ochun. Like the way that, and the image, I loved it, even though they had to play it twice because it was only half the length. But yeah, we all pushed pushed what we thought our boundaries were, and, are realizing that it is as limitless as the sky that connects us. And it's been an honor. I've lived with you guys. I've broken many nights. I get into this world, and watching you, and then like watching you slow motion, then speed it up, and then I just had so much fun watching you ladies in your movement, and your offering visually and physically. It was just a super, super exciting process. And that, and finding the music, curating the music, getting free music, thanks to Advocate of Words, who taught me about YouTube, has a studio with free beats. And I'm like, well, let's go. Let's look at these beats, and then looking at the mood, looking at the genre, matching it up. I went off. Thankfully, I've been living by myself for 5 months, and I'm allowed like this quiet, but I am returning to the Boogie Down Bronx tomorrow. So I'll be flying through the cielo.
Yeah.
Castle Hill South, Rochester,
the return.
Caridad, you're getting a lot of affirmation and applause for that last minute, down to the wire creativity force that you are. So that is really quite amazing. One of the things that I loved about your editing was how you allowed us in a way to collaborate further than we did to begin with. right? So the way that you juxtaposed us again to think about that, my movement with Beatrice's voice, with then Beatrice with your voice, going in and out of the Bronx, and the mural in the Bronx as well. That was really, really beautiful. So ways in which we didn't imagine then come back to us with new meaning, I thought was really just brilliant of your editing.
Thank you.
Really, really
And
exciting.
yes, shout out to Linda Bonilla. Her images were also what was the glue visually, and so thank you for that. And yeah, it's just I enjoyed it so much because I felt like, Alicia, your piece was short. It was only like 1 minute originally, so I was like, no, we gonna milk this baby right here, and then and then brought it in. I'm telling you, I went into dimensions in my mind and soul with you ladies, so I loved it, and I'm looking forward to next week because that's the second video that I edited, and and then we will see the work of our matriarch Marian Soto, and also Noemi Segarra Rodriguez, I think, or Ramirez. What's her last name? And so she's over here, and I worked on that too. So I had to knock out the first episode and then see how do I tie. If I could put 2 episodes together to make one whole film, would it make sense? So I was thinking that way too. Like the big picture.
Yeah, and this is like, and Rosalind, yes.
Yes, and then I brought in Rosalind Diaz, who is a new performer. Even though I've discovered her in the open mics, and we have connected for over a year in the open mics, which has been an amazing connection. And got Rosalind to film at Ostos in particular, like at the theater, and I had to edit that piece too, which was a challenge, and because I was given pieces. And I was like, what do I do with this? But made it happen. And I'm looking forward to seeing Rosalind shine next week. It's going to be so great. And the whole team still comes along because I still bring everybody from the first episode into, so I still am weaving you all together. And then there's just more faces. It's like you see the family grow. It's getting bigger. It's getting bigger. And so I'm excited about what Melanie does for the 3rd episode, because now she has those 2 pieces and her own work and her interpretation of what she's seeing, what she's inspired by. It's going to be amazing. And it is a collective. We've been collaborating for, gosh, how long has La Botanica been going? Years. 2 years. Yes, 2 years, baby. And then I think about La Botanica, because you think about La Botanica as like the botanicals, where medicinal elements are found, but then where you each are a medicinal element. That's how I saw you. Like, I'm gonna bring in Raka here. I'm gonna bring Beverly here, Megan here, Beatrice, Alicia. This little element, it's very alchemy. Magic. It's just so exciting, and I've just loved working with all of you. And Jane, gotta shout out Jane Gabriels of Pepatián, who without her none of this would have happened. I can tell you that right now, because she asked me, do you think you can? And I didn't even know if I could. I was nervous. I really must say, I was like, what did you get yourself into, girl? What is you crazy? But then I just let myself go, and then this is what came out, so.
Girl, no fear. Cari has never had any fear. She gets on a mic, she gets into a classroom, step to a freaking correctional facility. You will come on.
I have fear. I just don't let it control me. I just say thank you for sharing fear, but I've gotten this far, I've gotten this far. So that's what consoles me, is like, you made it this far. Why would you think you can't take it to the next level? Just try. And
amazing work. I'm so excited. We are coming to our end. I just see power to the women from Marianne, and this is about challenging ourselves creatively in a safe space. That's what La Botanica does. Linda is reminding us. So we're gonna try something today. The chat has been so beautiful. So we're gonna try this as we start to close. We thought that we're gonna ask for all of us that have been all the artists in conversation, but then all of you also in the audience, if you want to join us, to think of like one word or something very short that is sort of like a takeaway from today's work. So we started with an offering, and that offering can grow. And so what do we harvest from that, from our work today? And to think of one word or a very short phrase that we can write on the chat, but we're gonna submit it all together. So just take a moment and think about it, and you can write it down, but don't enter it yet. And then we will all enter it together and let it pop up in the chat. So let's just take a moment and kind of think and write a takeaway for yourself. Take a moment to let people, and we're inviting everyone in the audience to do this as well, if you feel so inclined. Are we good? Yes? Okay. So on the count of 3, we'll go return or enter. 1, 2, 3. Ah, nice. Beautiful. So if we go back, solidarity, feminine power, strength in the sisterhood, witnessing legacy building, unique, community still exists, creative play, centered and sure, strength, pure energy, sisterhood. Today was a full day. You blessed me. A tough day. You blessed me. Yay! Wonderful. What a beautiful way to bring it together.
Yes.
I'll pass it to Beatrice as we close.
Yes, thank you. And thank you for all the wonderful comments, everyone. So as we, of course, mentioned a little bit, Caridad mentioned, and also others, of our show, again, continues next Friday, June 11th at 7:30. You'll see, again, Bronx artists and this whole compilation of the different, artists, Marianne, Noemi, Rosalind. So, tune in. tune in on next Friday as well as the following Friday. So, we have more for you. Again, we just wrote this on the chat. So next Friday at 7:30, we'll be back. So thank you so much for being a great audience. And I hope that you just enjoyed our night, and healing for everybody.
Thank you. Gracias.
Thank you, Jane. Thank you, Hostos. And thank you, everybody. Yes.
Thank you. Peace.
Thank you, Hostos. Hope everyone has a good night. See you next week.
Thank you very much.